Shalom and a warm welcome to the Diplomatic Encounter, a current affairs program that gives you issues that matter, of course, in the diplomatic circles. My name is Sharon Karinda. God created men and women equally. Now this week's program takes a feminist lens in trying to answer the question, is diplomacy gendered? Why are there few women in diplomacy? In Zimbabwe, we have 9 out of 54 ambassadors, a ratio of 1:7. Is this a reflection of society? Historically, diplomacy has been perceived to be of men. Women were not admitted to diplomatic and consular services in any applicable numbers until 1933, when 13 countries, including Turkey, had women diplomats. Until the mid-20th century, the most extensive contribution made by women to diplomacy was as the wives of diplomatic and consular officers. In this capacity, they supported their husbands by running diplomatic households, presiding as hostesses, making their own range of contacts to complement the official work of the embassy, and in many instances, distinguishing themselves by local voluntary and community work. With the advent of women empowerment agenda, little by little, step by step, more and more women are now being admitted into the diplomatic service. While the number of women in diplomacy are growing, significant barriers and challenges remain. Women have been marginalized in the arena of foreign policy making because traditionally Western and Eastern philosophers from Aristotle to Confucius, who taught that the state, like the household, should be governed by men. The very conceptualization of the state was based on the subordination of women's labor within the family to allow men to concentrate on increasing wealth. Particularly in affairs of the state, the traits most associated with being a man have been those most valued in the conduct of international politics. Toughness, courage, power, strength, and even the use of force are seen as qualities more appropriate and relevant to the successful management of the state. We caught up with several women ambassadors in Zimbabwe and with the opportunity to ask them their backgrounds, which marks their diplomatic service. The Netherlands and Swedish ambassadors have the same story.
I started working first at the ministry, then I went to New York. I worked at the UN for a while, back to the ministry again, and since 2008 I have been working on the African continent. First 5 years in Senegal and now 4 years here in Zimbabwe.
I studied international law, international relations, and I traveled a lot. I learned a lot of languages, and I entered the diplomatic training program in Stockholm. So that was the beginning of the journey, which took me now here to Zimbabwe.
The Australian system of diplomacy is a career-based system. So I joined the Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade quite a few years ago as a graduate trainee, and then came up through the system doing other diplomatic postings, but this is my first role as an ambassador.
The Malawian ambassador has quite a different story, which has its background from the non-governmental organization sector.
My diplomatic journey started in 2015. Then I was working with World Vision International, which is a Christian and organization, but also it's a relief organization. In 2015 we had historical floods, disasters, and then I was assigned to manage that. Working in World Vision, it gave me an opportunity to work in partnership with the government officials, and especially in 2015 where we're supposed to provide regular reports, updates on how we're faring in terms of managing the disaster program. So it is during this time that I was spotted, and in Malawi the position of ambassador is appointed by the president. So once you have been appointed by the president, you are supposed to go through the normal formal interviews. So I went for those interviews. I passed, and I thank God that I passed, because others, they do fail.
The Palestinian ambassador to Zimbabwe has a totally different story altogether. She grew up as a refugee, with most parts of Palestine under the occupation of Israel.
It is a series of circumstances, I think, that led me to study and then to work in the field of diplomacy. The most important ones were the fact that it's the way I was brought up as a Palestinian in different countries. This gave me openness and gave me curiosity to understand what's going on around us in the world, why our situation is different as Palestinians.
Now the question is the glass ceiling real? And are women bumping against it? Or we are just stumbling into gender stereotypes?
I would say, yes, it does exist. I'm saying this through experience. As I've said, I've worked in an NGO setup, but you find that most of the women, they're really stuck at the middle management. Not necessarily that they're not qualified, they may have the qualifications, and when it comes to competing, you find that they are good performers, but when you go up, you find that the numbers of the women somehow they get reduced.
I think it's a lot about gender stereotypes, both for women and for men, and the sort of perception what should be the role of a woman and the role of a man.
Yes, unfortunately the glass ceiling is very much there. And sometimes it's not even glass, you can actually see it. It is very much still in place. That doesn't mean that there is some kind of a conspiracy against women. Yes, there are some men and even some women still that believe a woman's place is in the home. And if a woman goes to work, it is just because the family income needs to be complemented, but she should never be ambitious. She shouldn't strive for a career. It's just a little job, especially if she has children. But that is becoming a tiny minority.
It does still exist. I mentioned before that even in Australia, the average salaries of women is still lower than men, and there's no good reason for that. We have as many opportunities for university study and other things.
Just to give you an example, that for the African ambassadors here in Zimbabwe, we are only 3. Yeah, so I think that one also speaks volumes. Probably it's just here in Zimbabwe, maybe in other countries, there are more lady ambassadors. I may not be able to say about that.
Although the Palestinian ambassador has heard of the glass ceiling, she has not come face to face with it.
I personally didn't feel it. I know that women in general have more challenges to overcome than men, especially when it comes to the motherhood. You know, it's the most noble role you have in your life as a woman. So, and in the field of diplomacy, it's even harder than a normal career or a normal job. But I think that diplomacy is difficult, whether for women or men. We pay the price maybe higher as women because we are the stability in the families.
You're watching The Diplomatic Encounter. Join us after the break. Welcome to the second segment of The Diplomatic Encounter, and our focus today is on women in diplomacy. When women were chosen to ambassadorial positions, they had to choose between family and career. We had the opportunity to ask them how they strike the balance between career and family.
So I certainly have the best of both worlds, having 2 lovely small children, but also being able to hold this professional position. But it is a juggle. And Zimbabwe is one of the best places that you could possibly have that challenge, I think, because of the wonderful Zimbabwean support staff that we have at the embassy, but particularly at my home, which enables me to get out and do my professional role while knowing my children are happy and safe at home.
I have 2 children, 10 and 7 years old, and of course it's a challenge to manage both a quite demanding job and being present and so forth for my children. But I try to keep my weekends free from work. I enjoy very much to go with my family on vacation and to spend time with them. Every day I find one little space where I can spend time only with my children. So that is also a way to get energy for the work, to not only work but also focus on family life. So.
The Malawian ambassador emphasized the issue of relationships between their career and their families.
It's about relationships. Actually, when we talk of gender, it's about relationships, and these relationships should start at household level. So the most important thing is to have good relationships at home, communication, open communication at home, but above all, to let God rule and reign in your home.
While the other ambassadors, as you have heard, had to juggle between family and career, the Palestinian ambassador had to prioritize her family first.
It wasn't easy. I will not pretend that it was easy. It wasn't. I know that when my son was still young, I had really to privilege my family life. And then to stay in central administration or not to move a lot, to stay in my post. Because it is a priority. You have children once, they grow up once, the day that goes never comes back. Now that he is an adult, I can go back to my career, I can move. I mean, you never leave your career, but you slow down. So now I can have my rhythm as I wish it because he is an adult.
Success is what everyone strives for. We asked the ambassadors what their definition of success is and how they handled failure.
I think for me, success is about discovering yourself. And then you also discover your capabilities. Success is not about having so much money, maybe about having so many friends, about driving Porsche cars, but it's about having the satisfaction that I am really achieving what God wanted me to achieve while here on earth.
Tough question. So a definition of success, I would say, is having a clear sense of what you want to achieve and work out how you're going to achieve that, bringing people along with you.
I think success comes in many different forms, and I think everyone has to find their own way of feeling successful. To me, success means that you work well together with other people and that as a group you make a difference. And that can be something very small, maybe in the life of one person, it can be for a community, it can even be for a country.
I have always looked at failure as an opportunity for growth. If you don't take risks, you'll never grow. So sometimes you step into the water where you don't even know the depth of the water. But when you go there, it's when you see how the depth of the water is. And now when you have experienced the depth of the water, you come out with different strategies. So I look at failure as stepping stones, and actually it's also good experience to have failures because they shape you.
Well, I'm human. And I think human reaction is when you have a feeling that you failed, that you beat yourself up about it for a while. You say, oh, how could I have done this and how could I have missed that? But then after a while I try, it's hard, but I try to take a step back and to really look at what happened, what did go wrong, and what we can do better next time to make sure it doesn't happen again.
As you go up the ladder, you tend to leave some steps and you regret. We asked the ambassadors what their regrets are and unfulfilled ambitions.
I have to be honest, I mean, being a working mom means that sometimes you get to spend less time with your children than you would like to. There are things that I've missed in my daughter's life. She's now 14. And during the past few years, like you said, I'm the ambassador to Zimbabwe, Zambia and Malawi. I have to travel quite a bit. And there have been times where she was in a school play and I was in Zambia. And sometimes that is difficult and it's hard for me to explain that to her. She is very understanding, she's very proud of her mom, but it is difficult. And yeah, sometimes you wish you could do everything 100% and that's just not possible. When it comes to unfulfilled ambitions, well, I have to be honest, you know, I always wanted to be an Oscar-winning actress and I'm afraid that that is never going to happen. So I guess I have to just be a diplomat.
There are some other things which, when I look back, I feel like I would have done better. And having worked in a humanitarian organization where you believe in touching the lives of people and leaving a mark in the lives of people, I have felt that emptiness for the past year. But now I thank God that through the Ministry of Social Welfare, I've been connected to one of the children home, where now I'm able at least to interact with them and help with whatever I have. And just doing that is at least giving me some fulfillment.
So not in this role, as I said, I'm loving it and I'm delighted that I'm able to be a mum and an ambassador at the same time. So no regrets in that respect. A personal ambition I have is that I'm one of those few diplomats that is not fluent in another language. So at some point in my life in the future, I'll make sure I knuckle down and become fluent in Shona or French or something.
Evaluations are part of our life. You have to stop, start doing, evaluating what did I do well, what I have to reinforce. I wouldn't call it really regrets, but they are part of life, you know, and it is normal to stop and to look around and to say, what do I want to do better, and things like that.
You're watching The Diplomatic Encounter. Join us after the break. Welcome to the third and final segment of The Diplomatic Encounter, where today we are employing a feminist lens focusing on women in diplomacy. Politics is termed to be a dirty game. Most women chicken out, leaving men to swim in that pool. We talked to the Palestinian ambassador if politics is really a dirty game.
Politics are a reflection of our societies. We have the bad, we have the good. And in politics it's the same. There is no perfect image and no imperfect also people all the way long. I hope that our societies and when you have societies are asking for peace worldwide and equality and justice, these are noble goals. And those who are fighting for these, they have to go through politics, as well as other people from the other side who work on a different basis and different values. But let's not stigmatize the political world and political class as all corrupt or, as you say, in dirty politics, because it is really a reflection of the society. You have always the bad and the good, and in politics you have the bad and the good. And luckily that those who fight for their principles and for their freedom and for universal values, don't leave it all, don't leave all the politics only for the dirty politics people. Yes.
Women's equal participation in diplomacy plays a crucial role in the general process of the advancement of women in any field.
To involve women fully in society, in the economic sphere, is beneficial for all of us.
I'm really not satisfied at the pace which we are going, because basically, probably because I come from a background where I still don't understand and appreciate why women should be segregated, and let alone to say on a 30% or 40%, which we are also struggling to reach. Because going back, when you go back from the genesis of the creation, it is very clear that God had created male and female, and He gave them, both of them, the equal opportunity to have dominion over everything which was created. Yeah, so I'm still trying to figure out where really this came from.
It is very important. Women are half of the society. You imagine if you don't have, it has to be reflective of the reality. I mean, women are the mothers, they are the daughters, the sisters, they are 50% of the society. And thank God they are here both in public and private roles. If not, the public will not reflect the reality.
I still feel that we still have an opportunity for women to take up those senior positions.
Some of the notable women who have achieved much in diplomacy include Sirleaf Johnson, who is the president of Liberia. In an interview with CCTV, Liberian president revealed that it's so lonely to be a woman in power, especially for international events where the male presidents have to interact with each other, leaving few female presidents with little interaction.
It's not so easy to mix, if I may put it that way. You're so lonely when you go to international meetings. You know, the boys hang out and they're talking to each other, they're maybe having a beer together, and you have that inhibition that, you know, you're just the other creature, so to speak.
And Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma said she would wish to see a lot to be done on women empowerment in Africa.
I would like to see an improvement in women in leadership on the continent, women in business. So those are some of the priorities for this decade, in addition to whatever each woman and each group of women have defined for themselves to see happen during this decade.
Diplomacy of the 21st century must be represented equally by men and women of equivalent merit and standing.
And yes, there are some men that feel threatened by ambitious women because they now face a new type of competition in their way to the top. There are also some women that have managed to get to the top, often after a very difficult struggle, and they get what is called the queen bee syndrome, where they want to be on their own. They want to be the number one woman among men. Very sad, by the way. It always makes me think of what the former Secretary of State of the US said. She said, there is a special place in hell for women that don't help other women. Always have to remember that.
We asked the ambassadors what are their words to young people who wish to scale up to higher positions.
So you have to be ready to analyze, learn, and move on.
And it is very important to know who you are, from where you come. This is what I feel are important things to have, so that you can serve, because public field is a service field. You serve your people. And to serve your people, you have to talk on its name. You have to be part of your people, really, and to be very open, as I told you, and to love what you do, to love your cause, to love whatever you do, to be committed, really.
Remain focused, identify yourself, discover the talents, gifts and skills which God has installed in you, and work at cultivating those skills until they manifest, and make use of them to achieve your future, to achieve your personal goal in life. So if you do that, you will see that even those who were undermining you, they will come back to you. But again, work hard. If you are studying, work hard, because even if we talk of gender, if you don't have the necessary qualifications, it will not work. You have to work. You have to work very hard, and also respect others. First of all, respect yourself, respect your values, but also respect others. Look for opportunities to come up with partners. Develop good partnerships which are really going to help you to progress in life. You cannot work in isolation.
Thank you for watching the Diplomatic Encounter. Hope you enjoyed this program. For more details, visit our Facebook page, that is The Diplomat Zimbabwe, or you can watch our YouTube channel, The Diplomatic Encounter Zimbabwe, or you can WhatsApp us on 0718 438 270, or you can call us on 0772 692 915. Until next time, God bless.